Good evening and welcome to Smashing the Ceiling, the videocast that brings you news, stories and people that the mainstream media would far rather didn't appear. This evening we're very lucky to be joined by Eugene Garvin. Eugene has made himself an expert on what's going on in Irish education in respect to this whole SPHE, trans, all of that. I'm not going to go into it. I'm going to let Eugene talk about it. Eugene Garvin, thank you very much. And I just preface this by saying Eugene is freshly arrived at his own place from Lochderg. If you know, you know. He has hours to go before he can eat or do anything. So thanks for being with us, Eugene.
Yeah, thanks, Paddy.
Now, straight up,
yeah.
What's new? What's happening?
Well, I think what I probably want to go through with people today is give you kind of an end-to-end view, because people will have all sorts of questions. What's this about? First, what are we actually talking about? Where does it come from? Who's pushing it? What's the church's view? I think we know that, but I want to clarify what that is. Who's bringing it into our schools, and how does it manifest in the schools?
Okay,
And why is it being pushed?
Let's start with what's in the schools right now. What in the last year, in the last school season, what were children dealing with?
Well, maybe let me just pull that up here, and I'll just kind of show you, just to actually show you what the stuff looks like. So just give me a minute, and I'll because you need to see the books, right? You need so it manifests in schools in multiple ways, and I guess one of the first ways it's been manifesting in schools has been with anti-bullying, the Beacon Alta.
But surely anti-bullying is a good thing.
Yeah, it is. But unfortunately, the whole anti-bullying thing has taken on a kind of a life of its own, and it's brought in gender ideology under the radar, so to speak, particularly for Catholic schools, and that's an issue. So let me just pull this thing up. So what it brings in the whole notion of transgender ideology to be enshrined within the school, the policies of the school, and that's the problem, right? And particularly in a Catholic school.
What it's defining bullying as is not accepting that a child can be socially transitioned in school, that a child can change sex, that a child could be born into the wrong body. Don't accept that. Well, you're a bully, aren't you?
Yeah, you don't use the pronouns, you misgender, you dead name them, using their previous name because they've changed from boy's name to a girl's name, etc. All those things could be considered as bullying, right? Okay. And obviously from a Catholic school perspective, they talk about inclusion, right? In a Catholic school, there's no requirement there's no exclusion right now. We don't exclude. None of our schools exclude anybody based on anything, any of these characteristics. And this is trying to bring in these identities, and I can cover off where they come from, and build this into the policy of the school. It's outrageous. It's totally unacceptable for a Catholic school to bring this in.
Straight away that this program is called Beacon Alta.
Be kind.
Which, of course, is the always in hashtag be kind is the label of the sociopath. Nobody else needs to be reminded to be kind, but sociopaths.
Yeah. So you'll see this all over the place. You'll hear things like empathy, inclusion. These kind of words are used. And Beacon Alta is a classic one. And it's double speak. This stuff is double speak. Ultimately, there's different meanings for the words. If you go back to the George Orwell double speak type thing. So this is outrageous. They're trying to enshrine it and get behind. They want to get under the radar of Catholic schools by doing it at an anti-bullying level. So you can't get away from it.
I think it's important to point out they want to get under the radar of all Christian schools. It's not just Catholic schools. They want
Yes, correct. Yeah. And unfortunately, though, a lot of schools are going with it. Yeah. And there's not enough pushback. There really isn't.
Okay.
So that's that one.
The program, is that that be opted out of? Can a school say no?
No, they have to. It's been pushed by the department. You've got to bring this in.
Must have Beacon Alta. Okay.
Yeah. So next one here is the library books. We've seen this before. these apologies for some of the text on the left hand side here, but this is what's in the books. So they bring in these so-called LGBTQI inclusive books, inclusive, that word, inclusive, double-speak word, into
Okay,
the
just
libraries.
just let me stop you there. You're saying they're bringing in these books. I'm noticing straight away the very first point on the left-hand side of my screen is defining a blowjob
Yes.
for children. What age children would be exposed to that?
Typically, yeah, typically this is junior cycle, so 11 to 12-year-olds starting at that age would
So
typically be.
this is now, in case you can't see, because it's small, oral sex is popping another dude's peen into your mouth. It goes on to warn the child, watch the teeth.
Yeah.
Eugene, this isn't sex education. This is sex
No, no,
training.
yeah, it is. It's just totally inappropriate, and there's a whole manner of inappropriate material in these books. And of course, when there was complaints made, and I think now that there was some people went maybe a little bit hard-handed going into the, and I can understand some parents getting a bit agitated about seeing their children exposed to this. It
Now,
all became,
can I just
yeah,
stop you there? Some of the people who went hard-handed and made it hard for the rest of us to object to this weren't people who were minding their own children at all.
yeah, I know,
One
yeah,
one particular
uh,
activist has
yeah,
no interest in his own children. He
yeah,
doesn't even
yeah.
pay child support.
And you see, you got this, the whole thing came out then. This was far right
Yeah.
agitators, going in, abusing the librarians, etc. Now, I'm involved with the Natural Women's Council and a few of the other groups like the PRA. And any of the stuff that we did was legit.
Yes.
Formal complaints were issued. There was templated letters to give to the people, and and complain about the books as you would normally do for any
Of
other book that would
course.
be inappropriate.
Yes.
But unfortunately, the narrative became very different. It became, oh, now the point about it, an interesting point is the Forza trade union that run the libraries are regular supporters at transgender marches
Yeah.
carrying communist flags.
Yes.
So that just puts into context some of the staff in that trade union and the fact that the trade unions are part of this.
Yes.
So I think, that's why
It's
you
really
get no
important to
response.
note that because I'm not, what I said about some of those activists going in, I'm objecting because they made it harder for the rest of us to protest.
Yeah.
But the people who are backing this effectively want to demolish Western society, don't they?
Oh yeah, I mean, there's a huge, and ultimately it goes back. We'll get to it, Paddy. I don't want to preempt. I suppose I want to build up the story a little bit so we
Okay.
get to where this does come from, because
Yeah.
I guess my own learning and investigation to this has evolved, and it's reached its conclusion, I guess. Probably I could have come to the conclusion sooner, but we'll see where it goes. So let's move on.
Sorry, just
Yeah,
before you went there, I noticed you
yeah,
had "This Book is Gay" as one of the
yes,
books, which we know encourages children effectively to go on Grindr, which is a gay
correct.
dating app,
Yes, totally.
exposing
Yeah,
utterly inappropriate in a school setting.
totally inappropriate. And there's material about in procuring puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones online and injecting them into yourself in some of these books. Again, that's just highly irregular.
Yeah,
And there was a full complaint done to the HPRA, and that complaint was quashed internally by the H. Basically, they were told not to pursue it any further.
because it would be too embarrassing.
Yeah. Well,
Sorry,
so
I
this is not good.
interrupted you because I wanted to come
Yeah,
back to that. So I think
yeah,
these are
yeah.
important issues.
Absolutely. So these are the next two slides talk about specific things that appear in the curriculum documents. So this is actually written in the curriculum now. This is what's taught. So there's no dispute here. No one can say, oh, that's not true. That's not in the class. This is the
That's
curriculum, whether
what's
it's in your
happening.
classroom or not. This is in the
Yeah.
curriculum, right? Here it is, defining gender identity. Here it is. It's if it's different from your sex at birth, etc. It talks about
Nobody
this,
has
and
sex isn't again, this is the lie that that your sex is merely observed is assigned at birth, whereas
yeah,
sex is
it is.
constant at conception and a central part of fetal development.
Yeah, 100%. So this is the ideological view of gender. There's no mention of gender dysphoria here. They
Okay.
don't even mention that term.
Yeah.
And they also don't mention the notion of detransitioning or desisting.
Yes.
So, and
I
hence
mean,
that doesn't
this
appear.
is really an effort to condemn children to a lifetime of being a patient, being an anorgasmic, asexual, mutilated creature.
Yeah, it's terrible. It's shocking. So let's move on. I need to bring it up because they also talk about sexual intimacy and sexual activity. These two things, the sex and gender stuff, kind of go together in the curriculum as part of SPHE. So the kind of more outrageous sexual stuff is all comes in as well. Unfortunately, kind of age inappropriate sexual stuff, as we saw in the book there, right? That was the example in that book. So it talks about sexual intercourse in all its forms, age 11, age 12.
Yeah.
No limit here, right? Imagine somebody who takes that, a book author, they can produce anything in that book, like anything that could be equivalent to what we would consider pornography, right? With that kind of definition. So this is important. This is word for word definition from page
These
22, Appendix
activities,
2.
these activities can be solitary or involve other people.
Other people,
And that's
as in
that's been
multiple
taught
people.
to
Yeah.
12, or multiple people. That's been taught to 12-year-olds.
Yeah, yeah. So it's grossly inappropriate. So there's the definitions, and here's some of the books, and you can see it here: gender identity. This poor little child here who's confused about their gender. Am I non-binary, etc. This is one of the books here. This is actual text for you. You can see the page numbers as well.
Yeah, I'm looking at it on my screen. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So that's one example. I'll flip through them quickly because this is real. So lots of people come in, Paddy, and you've heard it yourself. Oh, I heard there's something in the schools, but it's not. It's not in our school. It's not. It's not really happening. It's
Yes,
you
it's
hear
in
the
your school.
denial, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So here's another book, My Wellbeing Journey. This is congratulations, you're becoming a sexual being.
Well,
This is junior
wonderful.
cycle. 12 year
Wonderful.
olds,
Because
12,
that's
13
what
year
we
olds.
want 12-year-olds to be learning. That's why parents send them to school.
Yeah. Developing sexual desires. Here we go. It's, there's 8 pages in this section in this book, actually.
Wow.
Now let me tell you this. There's an interesting story behind this book because there have been complaints about this book. It's
I
published
can't
by
see
Gill.
why.
But Gill Education published it, and they have a soft copy version online, and which was good because you could look through the entire book. A parent could go up and look at it.
Yeah.
They've actually censored the soft copy. It only goes as far as the pages just before this section. So
So you can't read this if you're a parent.
not anymore. You used to be able to, but there was complaints, so they took off the offending pieces. But it's still there for the kids. The kids still see it, but the parents won't see it because the books don't come
Incredible.
home, right? The
Yeah.
books don't come home.
Books do not come home. That's a central issue here.
Yeah,
Books do not
and
come home.
they don't come home. And the other thing, and I haven't really referenced it in this particular presentation, we've covered it in other presentations, is there's secrecy contracts for the SPHE class, where the children sign up basically that because it's kind of sensitive topics, sensitive discussions, they won't relay what was discussed in the class at home.
So they make the children sign a contract
Yeah,
that
it's in the books. Yeah, yeah,
they
yeah.
will not tell their parents what was said in class.
Correct. And now here's the
Term
interesting
for
thing.
people. We have a term
Yeah,
for people who
yeah,
talk to sex about children, with children, and tell them not to tell their parents, haven't we?
yeah,
It's
yeah.
called groomer.
Yeah, I know it's called grooming. Now, and now there were complaints because it was in an official it was in an official Department of Education document specifying that what's said in the class stays in the class, right? Um, Now there was a lot of complaints about that, and so they changed the document to take that out. But the problem is, all the books were previously published, so the books still contain the secrecy contracts and secrecy pacts at the start of them. They're still there. They haven't
It's
changed them.
still
They haven't
there.
ripped the pages out. You know.
Yeah. So
Uh,
children are
so
being, even if the school doesn't insist upon it, which they still may, the
yeah.
children are still being exposed to this idea that there's a contract, they mustn't tell, they mustn't talk to mummy and daddy about it. That's incredible.
No,
Oh,
and
this was a good idea.
I'll give you an example. A young mother I know, and she has a 5-year-old who
Yeah.
started in school this year. They're kind of starting probably late as a 5-year-old, but she was asking, what did you do in school today? And the child said, it's a secret.
Oh my God. It's a
Yeah,
secret?
it's a
No,
secret.
no,
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
absolutely
So
no.
no way, Jose.
Yeah,
This is inappropriate, shouldn't be happening, and unfortunately,
it is.
this has been brought in.
Yeah.
There's other things been brought in. So let me talk about pedagogy for a minute. This is kind of
What's
important.
pedagogy?
Pedagogy is the way of teaching. So people wouldn't be familiar with the term, and you don't see it in the curriculum because it's not mentioned in the curriculum. So it's
Okay.
the way you teach the subject matter in the classroom. So what we've been adopting in Irish education over the last few years is this thing called critical pedagogy. And it's based on the kind of the writings of this guy and his philosophy of this guy called Paulo Freire, a Brazilian educator, a Marxist Brazilian educator. It's coming from a Marxist mindset, right? And this chart was actually taken from the DCU SPHE training course. They did a section on transformative leadership, as they call it. They call it transformative leadership. And the reason they call it that is because the children are to, basically engage in developing what they call a critical consciousness, understanding power dynamics, sources of power and oppression,
So
Marxism, right?
effectively, they're to be good little Marxists at the end of this process.
Yes, yes. So that they can so that they can transform the world. The children need to be change agents so that they can transform their world. And one of the areas of oppression is obviously trans people.
Yes.
So trans people are oppressed. They're an oppressed class. So you have to become an ally for the trans community and the LGBT community. You have to become an ally for them to support them, etc. Right? So and that's a way of basically bringing young people, children, into effectively the area of woke ideology, because the extension of this, it's not just you're not just going to be supporting trans people, you're going to be supporting the whole woke agenda. You're going to be supporting all the migrants. As critical race theory comes into this thing, so you have to support all the, to become an anti-racist as well. You have to become an advocate for sustainable development against climate change. You have to become an advocate against the kind of the old world of the European dominated society, Western society, which is based on capitalism. It's based on white privilege. It's based on people who are oppressive, white males who are oppressive. See how it goes, right? So
The
this whole
entire
critical,
Marxist panoply. Employment is exploitation. Climate change is central. Opposing
yeah,
it. I've I've seen the effect of this on children. I have a
yeah,
young cousin who basically makes her life miserable by trying to work out what she should
oh,
eat in a sustainable way. Won't eat red meat. Has now almost dropped meat entirely, even though she loves it.
yeah.
Punishes
And
herself.
this is Yeah, and so they call it problem posing education because
Yeah.
it's meant to challenge children. Am I racist? What gender am I? Etc. What am I destroying the planet? And what can I do to be a change agent for social transformation?
Yeah.
I'm serious. I'll show you the quotes in a minute. So
So effectively,
we'll have
parents are sending
yeah,
children to school to be indoctrinated as good little
yeah.
Marxists.
That's what's happening, unfortunately. Now, it's not just in the SPHE books. So this is a book called Make a Difference. It's in a subject called CSPE. It's a civil, social, and political education, right? Now, this is a
Yes.
classic. This is a classic subject where you can bring in
This
because
used to
the
be
word,
civics, wasn't it, at one point, until we
yeah,
decided we
civics.
were going to teach citizenship
No, now it's woke indoctrination, basically.
or indoctrination.
And this is just one section from this book talking about LGBTQ pride, talks about the different identity flags. So you might have opted your child out of SPHE, but you
But
probably never thought to opt them out of this thing,
yeah,
right? So they're going to get the whole woke agenda in this particular course, right? So I'll move on. Louder than words, English class. So this is an English book now,
English
right?
class.
Yes,
We
English
did
class.
Shakespeare.
Yeah, yeah. No, they don't. It's there's a section in this book called Sense and Sustainability because it's all about
Sounds like a
sustainable development.
Jane Austen novel, but I take it they're not studying Jane Austen anymore.
No, no. So you see here, they're talking about pronouns, gender identity in your English book. So again, you thought you might have opted your child out of this stuff because you didn't want them to get exposed to it in SPHE. And they go into the English class, and here we go. talking about gender identity, talking about non-binary identities here, going through it.
Nobody is non-binary. And look, I see at the top, Tenny,
Yes,
Equality Network Ireland.
yes.
They
Yeah.
do in
Oh,
an
yeah.
English class.
Yeah, exactly. What's this doing in English class? Now, the other thing is, there's a little link over on the right-hand side there. It's got the kind of pink thing on it. It's scarcely visible. That's
Yeah,
a link to a website. Let's go to the website. Here's the
please do.
website it goes to. It's on page 30. That link is on page 371 of that book. It brings you to this everyday feminism website. What's this all about?
Well, it's not about
It,
feminism.
well, feminist theory, and it's all about woke. You can see the fists there down the bottom. Help keep everyday feminism alive. 10 myths about non-binary people. And here's another page, School for Social Justice. And you can see it up there, Feminism 101, Racial Justice, Trans and GNC, LGBTQIA. This is a radical leftist website, woke indoctrination. And this
What's
English
that
book is
doing
pointing
in a
to this.
school book?
Yeah. Now, you might say, oh, I'll go back to the Department of Education and complain about this. But you know what the Department of Education will say to you? They'll say, we're not responsible for the books. They'll say the
Then
books
who
are down
is?
to yeah, they'll say it's the publisher, and you have to go back to the publisher. So a parent needs to go back to the publisher to make a complaint about this book.
That's insane.
It is insane because the taxpayer pays for these books. Like,
Yes.
that's the point.
And the
Yeah.
reason the taxpayer pays is so the parents can't see them.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah,
one of them.
exactly. So there's a whole load of things that are wrong with what's happening in our schools right now, and this is an example. So it just shows you this kind of hard left indoctrination. So this is feedback we provided to the NCCA and the primary curriculum.
What's
I
the
went through the documents.
NCCA?
NCCA are the National Curriculum Board. They basically define the curriculum for the junior cycle,
Yeah.
and this was the primary curriculum in particular. And they engage with academics. They tend to be engaging with DCU, Dublin City University. And that'll be a common theme. Hold that point for a minute because we'll come back to it. So we gave this feedback. We went through this in detail, and we said it's not fit to proceed as documented in any shape or form. It's a dumbing down of the curriculum. It's a politicization of the curriculum. It's bringing in woke indoctrination. It's bringing in this pedagogical approach, the critical theory stuff. It's in the research documents. And we said it's bringing this, it's focusing on education for social justice agenda, right?
Yeah.
Political agenda. We're talking about the primary curriculum here. So you're talking about really young learners, 5 or 6 years of age at the low end. We're going to get exposed to this stuff, and the psychological harm that potentially they can get.
Psychological,
So
emotional harm you have there, but it's also
yeah,
long-term learning harm because time spent on this is not being spent teaching children the things they need to know.
correct, absolutely correct. They will not be taught critical thinking. They use the term critical thinking in the curriculum, but they don't mean critical thinking. They
No.
mean critical pedagogy. They mean that Paulo Freire stuff, the way of looking
Yeah.
at everything in terms of the power relations, who's the oppressor, who's the oppressed. That's their view of critical thinking, not the way that we learned critical thinking, the rational critical thinking of where you look at the alternatives, you research the thing properly, you make your own mind up about it. No, you don't. They don't want you to learn that, right? That's the problem. Okay, so that's that stuff. So why is it? I might need to go back here maybe, and I'll just bring you to some of the sections because you probably need to see the originators. Okay, here we go. Where's it? Actually, let me just go back I'll give you a quick refresher on the Catholic view on this thing.
Yeah.
So this is the Catholic Church teaching on this thing is very clear. There's 2 documents that were issued. One in 2019. This document here, male and female, he created them, which talks about gender ideology in a school education environment. People aren't even aware of this document. And then there was Dignitas Infinita, published last year, the 8th of April, from the Dicastery for the Doctrine of Faith. And I'm going to quote from that now in a minute. Catholic teaching on gender. So it's talking about this ideology envisaging, society without sexual differences, eliminating the anthropological basis of the family, because that's what gender ideology does. It gets rid of it. And it says, it's unacceptable to have things like this. Ideologies that see themselves as absolute and unquestionable.
Yes.
And we know
No,
that
no
because people,
debate. Always
yeah,
we talk about no debate.
no
Yeah.
debate. Yeah, exactly. And here they say the biological sex and the socio-cultural role of sex, they say that you can identify that role of socio-cultural role, which you would call gender. They can be distinguished, but they cannot be separated. They cannot be separated. They're one and the same. So,
No,
and
but
here it
that's a
is.
really
Any
important point.
attempts?
That's sorry. Now I
Yeah,
want to come back to that one because
yeah,
that's
yeah,
actually a really central point. That the socio-cultural role of gender, if you like, can't be separated from our biological sex. The behavior
correct.
of men is different to the behavior of women. Their
Yeah,
contribution is different both to society and to the family.
yeah.
A friend of mine
So
used to point out
yeah,
that you won't see a mother throwing a child in the air. He said there's a simple difference. Fathers take risks, but they train children in a different way. That those risks are good for children, but you need a mother there to stop the risk getting out of hand.
yeah,
You know what I
yeah,
mean? In all situations, that there's a
yeah.
huge tension between the sex gender roles inside a family itself.
Yeah, no, and we'll talk about this a video later on. We did a video as part of the Natural Women's Council, which actually had a lot of quotes from Pope Francis on this, and also some quotes from these texts. And Pope Francis talked about the difference between men and women is it's part of creation, and
Yeah.
it's a very positive thing. Those differences are very positive, and they come together, obviously in a marriage situation, and the ultimate outcome can be the creation of new life.
A mother I
Um,
know who reared both boys and
yeah,
girls used to point out that
yeah.
nobody who reared girls and then reared boys could possibly be under the illusion that men and women are the same.
No, 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 and then just create. Well, it's creating it as a social construct. We'll see that. I'll show that
Yeah.
when we show where it's coming from. So this is very clear. This is and all attempts to obscure the references to this inalienable sexual difference between men and women has to be rejected.
Yeah.
That's the view, and Pope Francis was clear about this in every statement he made. This stuff should be nowhere next nor near any Catholic school,
So for
and that
Catholic
brings
schools, essentially you can't separate masculine and feminine from God's work of creation.
no, no, it's
Yeah.
unambiguous.
Yeah.
It's binary, basically, guys. And here it is: the Code of Canon Law says the instruction and education in a Catholic school must be grounded in the principles of Catholic doctrine, which we've just talked about. Teachers are to be outstanding and correct doctrine and integrity of life. So Catholic schools that bring this stuff in are in violation of this code of canon law.
And that wouldn't have been a problem in a sense in Catholic schools in when English was being taught in English class and religion was taught in religion class, if you like, and civics dealt with civics. But you now have a situation, as you showed us there, where the English book is being written by Trans Equality Network Ireland, one of the worst
Yes.
gangos in the country.
Yeah. Yeah. And you won't they have a thing called the whole school approach. That's the term they use, the whole school approach.
What
Basically
is that?
means that any notions of things like social justice and gender, sustainable development, and climate change can appear in any subject, any time, any classroom.
It must
You know,
permeate the entire curriculum.
yes. So your curriculum can effectively be contaminated with this stuff, and you'll never really know.
How do you
You'd
get
have
it
to
into
go through
maths
every book
class?
in every subject.
I mean, how do you get trans ideology into maths?
Oh
Well,
yeah,
I shouldn't even.
belong to,
Yeah.
belong to. Do a module that schools can take. Yeah, if you want to bring it into maths. Yeah.
Oh my God.
And all the math problems now are about things like climate change. The temperature goes up by this and that, and you see, they frame the problems
Oh.
based on the ideology stuff. That's how they kind of bring it into
So
mathematics.
a child is
Yeah,
constantly propagandized.
100%, 100%. I will get to where it comes from. So that's that. And we did a video. well worth looking at on YouTube. Pope Francis on gender ideology, and the video description of that video has all the reference points to the documents, etc., and the quotes. So that should be sent to probably every Catholic school. So let me just go back because I wanted to get to just to show you where the stuff, who's pushing it, because I think you need to see who's pushing it.
Okay, you mentioned DCU before as one of the central problems here.
Yeah. No, so let's look at this. So we've got these people. So World Economic Forum, which people think is a far right conspiracy theory, it really exists. There's web pages that they exist, I can assure you. They have things called stakeholders. So there's this thing called stakeholder capitalism. We'll talk about it a little bit later on. And the stakeholders are NGOs like the United Nations, and UNESCO is the education wing of the United Nations. That's one of the things they do. The WHO, the EU, European Union, they're a stakeholder of WF, and billionaire foundations and the billionaires that fund them. And national NGOs, TENI belong to, we talked about them, right? Universities. There's a thing called the Athena Swan in universities. We'll talk about that, one slide about that.
Okay, because I want you to explain that to me. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get to that. And the Irish government. So here, this is United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, Agenda 2030. You've probably heard of Agenda 2030.
Yes.
Two of the goals. Number 4 is quality education. Number 5, gender equality. Gender equality, double speak. It's supposed to mean...
They all sound like good things.
It sounds like, yeah. Whereas education is indoctrination, basically. That's what SDG 4 is. And SDG 5 is gender equality for women and everybody who identifies as a woman.
Everybody who identifies as a woman.
Yeah, because it's socially...
Woman is merely a costume that you put on.
Yeah.
Woman is an adult female. Yeah.
Here it is. Achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls. I mean, most people would think this was great. This was fantastic. Gates Foundation putting $2 billion into it, supporting it, right? To promote gender equality. Here's the definition of gender from UNESCO. Gender roles and expectations are learned. They change over time. They're not biologically predetermined, nor are they fixed. It's a social construction.
This is absolute nonsense. It goes...
This is the... Yep.
I think it was Bertrand Russell who said nonsense on stilts, and that's what this is.
Here it is. It's and they keep it very quiet. They kind of do, right? They don't promote this a lot. But here it's on their website. This is the definition. And here the United Nations pushing Ireland to adopt comprehensive sexuality education. And you can see it there at all levels. And gender equality is in the middle of it there. Includes education on gender equality. And then they also want to amend the laws that acts as barriers to the children's right to education, right? Based on religious ethos or ethos grounds. See what they're talking about here?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. That's absolutely clear. The parents will not get to decide on an ethos. The United Nations will.
Correct. So
and the pretense here is that this is ethos neutral. There's no such thing. If I might quote Paulo Freire, there's no such thing as a neutral education.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. It's not a Catholic education. It's something else. It's another type of education.
But it is another type. It has an ethos. Education always has an ethos.
Yeah. And here it is. The International Technical Guidance on Sexuality Education, published by UNESCO. Do you notice the little wheel up there? The SDG, Sustainable Development Goal wheel?
Sustainable Development, right. If anyone's watching this on screen, it's right over there in the left-hand corner. Yes.
Yeah. So you find this document. It's easy to find this document online. It doesn't take, you do a search for the name. And here we go, page 50, the social construction of gender and gender norms for ages 5 to 8.
Oh my God, 5 to 8.
Yeah. So again, people say, "Oh well, yeah, that's not real. That's not really happening." Here it is, UNESCO document,
black and white.
And this document is quoted by the Department of Education. It's quoted by people like DCU to say we're following the international guidance and standards.
Yeah.
Okay. And here we go, the World Health Organization. This is even younger, 0 to 4. The right to explore gender identities. Do you see it there on the red box? Right to explore gender identities.
My sight is quite poor. Yeah.
Yeah, it's in there. So they talk about there's a couple of things that the WHO document talk about. So in this 0 to 4 category, one is this gender identity, so the child can
Different
explore their
kinds of
gender identity.
relationship, different kinds of
Yes,
family relationships.
yes. And I haven't shown. There's another page in this document, page 38. This is page 39. Page 38 talks about children from 0 to 4 to discover how to self-pleasure themselves. Early childhood masturbation.
Sorry, say that again.
Yeah, the page prior to this talks about early childhood masturbation for 0 to 4 year olds.
Sorry. These people want to teach children below 4 how to masturbate.
It's part of their sexual rights, you see. I'm serious, right? It's hard to keep a straight face sometimes with this stuff because it's so crazy. But
No,
that's the
no,
way they would see it.
sorry, I'm not
The
often
sexual rights of the child.
I'm not often mind boggled, but people actually wrote down in a published document that they
Yeah.
want to teach under 4s. They want to teach effectively toddlers to masturbate.
How to pleasure themselves. I mean, how you can even have that discussion with a child of that age legitimately, I guess beyond me. How you
Let's
can even
start
start
with
that
how
discussion.
you think that
Yeah.
you have any
Yeah.
that, that you should do this in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry,
No,
that's
it's based on a premise, and we did again with the Natural Women's Council. I've done detailed videos. We go through the origins of these documents, who
yeah.
produced the documents, who were the authors, and what the premise. The premise here is that children are sexual from birth. They're sexual beings from birth. That's the premise, you see.
Oh, we've heard that before.
Yeah,
We've heard
yeah,
that one before.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Find me a
this
child molester that didn't say that.
yeah, yeah. So this document is horrendous. I actually spoke to people on Lough actually about the WHO, and they said, "Oh, that's a fantastic organization. You know, I really believe in them." Well, look at this document from the WHO,
Yeah.
and tell me what you think
And
about the
this
WHO
is
now.
this page is bad enough. But the
Yeah,
previous page that you've just talked about, page 38, uh,
yeah,
is mind-blowing.
yeah. It's
That's
mind
the
blowing.
word for it. It's
But
mind-blowing.
it is mine, but it's actually not surprising when you start to understand the origins and the people who are involved in these documents and the ethos of these organizations and the people funding these organizations and promoting them. One of the primary, the main non-governmental funder of the World Health Organization is Bill Gates and the Gates Foundation.
This is the same Bill Gates whose wife divorced him largely on the
Yes.
grounds that he was far too friendly with Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's the same Bill Gates that funds this organization. It's the same Bill Gates that
That's where he
funds
wants to get money.
Planned Parenthood or has
Yeah.
funded them significantly in the past for abortion. And as you saw earlier, he was putting 2 billion into gender equality.
Yeah,
So
and you see, there's where language matters, isn't it? Because gender, anytime the word gender is used, we know we're dealing with something bad. Because if it wasn't,
correct.
say, sex equality,
Yes, exactly.
and
Yeah,
that's one thing we need to do is stop using the word gender. Sex, not
yeah,
gender,
yeah,
always.
correct. So let me move on. So the Athena Swan program. So you're probably wondering what this is all about. This was
Yes.
supposed to bring in gender equality into the universities. Now, why it's important? The reason it's important is because if you don't have Athena Swan accreditation, you will not receive research grants from the government. So basically,
Oh,
for a university, you are shut out. If you do not go align with the Athena Swan program, you will not be getting research dollars. So every university in the country is going to align with it, right? Because they want to get
so
the money.
effectively,
They
this
want to get.
is, it's the Soviet Union. You must join the Young Communists. It's Nazi Germany. This is totalitarian.
Oh, it is, and it's destroyed our universities. It's
Now,
queered our universities have
what
become queer now,
is,
basically.
first of all, the
Yeah.
name itself is a bit odd. What is Athena Swan?
It's an English thing. It actually came from the UK. It was intended to bring in, you promote gender equality. That word again, right? Gender equality.
Equality, sex equality.
The real gender equality, as you and I would understand it, but it's been used to bring in trans ideology into the universities and rigidly enforce it within the university structure.
Well, of course, you can't get a
Uh,
grant, you can't get money without signing
no,
up to
you
this.
can't. So it's
What's,
allowed radicals to
yeah,
get control within our universities.
you say accreditation is required in order for higher education institutions. Who gives this accreditation?
There's an Athena Swan organization and they've criteria. They have a whole list of criteria that you have to follow, and that includes things like trans inclusion and all that kind of stuff, right?
So we've effectively firmed out, effectively forced our universities to kowtow to a foreign organization which enforces all of this transgender mayhem.
Yeah, but you
And
see,
this
it's
happened,
in
of
line.
course, I noticed this
Yeah,
happened while Simon Harris was Minister for Further and Higher Education.
yeah. Again, I don't want to take any credit away from him, so I wanted to
No,
include
please
him here.
don't. Yeah.
Yeah.
Francis, the man who dropped out of DCU to become Francis Fitzgerald's T-boy.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
it's complete.
Now, do you see the other point about this though is this is fully in line with the EU. It's fully in line with the United Nations. So there's nobody, going to have a problem with this. So within the institutional Ireland, if I call it that.
Yeah.
So and at a European level or even the
I
global
think it
level.
was
So
Eamon Dunphy coined the term official
yeah,
Ireland.
yeah,
So Tina
yeah.
Swan
So
is
yeah.
something that's
So
official
if you
Ireland
go
sounds
if you were
lovely.
to do English in a university now, they've queered English basically. So you'll be looking at authors like Jane Austen. We talked about Jane Austen earlier
Yes.
on, and people look at Jane Austen as a kind of a queer idol. They would say she was obviously she didn't get married, right, and they would do queer interpretations of her books. Like this is what's happened in universities now,
God
and.
save us from that.
And the other problem is that all of the educational scholarship has become critical, as in critical theory, or queer, as in queer theory, based on those things, based on critical
Yes.
pedagogy, queer pedagogy. So they brought basically politicized the whole area of education now. Paulo Freire is part and parcel of it. And why this is important is because when the Department of Education say that, oh, we're using the latest scholarship from university, it's all critical, it's all queer, it's all in line with this stuff.
Yeah.
That's the problem. Uh, so you think, oh, they're following the latest research and everything and all that latest scholarship. The latest scholarship is toxic. It's politicized.
This isn't Athena Swan isn't scholarship. It totalitarian transgenderism.
Yeah, it's just part and parcel of that agenda, unfortunately. A gripped media. If people are, I know people on the call use gripped. Do some searches for Athena Swan on gripped. There's a few articles on it, a few good articles talk about it in detail. So,
Gript. And
I'll
if you're on this and you're not reading Gript, you should be.
you should be, yeah, because gripped you'll get gripped are independent. So here we are. I just threw this in because I think it's worth here. There's a group called the Population Council, who was funded and started by the Rockefeller Foundation. Rockefeller Foundation, very wealthy family who started a foundation. Now, the Rockefellers have a very checkered history. And again, I did a very detailed video on the things that they funded. So they funded abortion, they funded research into contraception, etc., all the different techniques and sterilization. And they started this thing called the Population Council. So you might say, what's that all about? It's all about population control, population reduction. And they issued these guidelines for sex education here. You can see it's all one curriculum, and it talks about sex and gender, HIV and human rights. And so this covers trans ideology. So this was produced in 2009. And one of the authors of this document, one of the primary authors of this particular document from the Population Council, the author actually worked for Planned Parenthood at the time, was also the lead author for the WHO guidelines that talk about children of 4, learning to
That
masturbate,
thing
etc.
that absolutely boggles my mind. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you research this thing, you see, you can see, you can start joining the dots because you can see where the stuff came from. You can see the people who were involved, etc. It's very real.
What sort of
So we talked
influence
about the
has
church.
this? What sort of influence does this population council have?
Uh, they they've become very much into the whole social justice thing now, and they're funded again. One of their funders is the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Why wouldn't it be?
Well, there.
They would be an NGO that would influence things like the United Nations, etc., WHO. That's what where they would do it.
And of course, when
I'm
they
just going to
influence
show.
the government can say, we're just following international guidelines. This is what the UN is recommending. Yeah.
Yeah. This was a chart that was presented at the DCU SPHE training course, Mary Creedon, the course that the whistleblower came from. They presented this chart about Ireland. This is where Ireland is now. And you can see it on the right-hand side there. We're neoliberal, secular, and morally relativist. So you might be familiar with that term of moral relativism.
Yeah.
Well, it basically means there's no truth. There's no right or wrong. Okay? You get the picture, right?
I do.
There's no moralities, essentially. It's all relativist morality. It's my truth, it's your truth, etc. That's what moral relativism. So this is what they're portraying, and so you can see if this is the ethos you have, then you can see how you could be bringing in these things into classrooms. Not surprising, right? Now this stuff is based. We talked about feminist theory earlier on and queer theory.
Yeah.
And where does it come from? It comes from, on the one hand, the critical theory of the Frankfurt School, and on the other hand, the postmodern theory, the French school, people like Michel Foucault.
Yeah.
And out of that, you get this thing called critical social justice, this evolution of both of these things merging together. And here's the modern day feminist theory, which is Marxist based, queer theory, as we talked about, which is all the sex and gender stuff, the crazy sex and gender stuff.
Yeah.
But it's grounded in critical theory as well, though. It's that whole notion of power, oppression, etc. Critical race theory, surprise, surprise, appears in here as well. Post-colonial theory, which is rejecting all your past, basically. That's all terrible, your terrible history, all the white,
White privilege.
misogynists that created your society. And climate theory. So no surprise that you see all these things coming from here. And there's other things. There's critical whiteness studies. I don't know if you've ever heard that. Critical whiteness
Critical
studies.
whiteness studies.
Yeah. And this term of intersectionality and degrowth Marxism. Degrowth Marxism is tied up with green, the whole green thing, right? The whole environmental movement is effectively a manifestation of degrowth Marxism. It means we have to pull in the reins, reduce the population, all this kind of stuff.
Reduce our economy, be poorer,
To save the planet. We have to save the
by
planet.
being poorer and more miserable.
Yeah.
Right.
Now,
Studies.
this is really important. This definition of queer, because a lot of people don't understand what this word means. They think that's like a gay, right? People think, gay people identify as queer, and historically they did. And they still do today. But in the context of what we're talking about, in the context of LGBTQ, that Q is this queer, because LGB is the gay part.
Yes.
Right. The queer is this
LG
part.
Is the gay part.
And this is a book. There's a book here written by David Halperin, a very famous and known in the queer circles.
Is the Pastor Adams guy down in the bottom corner.
Oh yeah, he's talking about Michel Foucault, and he's basically saying Saint Foucault. So he's praising, lauding. And here he has it here. This is his definition of queer. Unlike gay identity. So straight away he's saying it. He's excluding. This is not gay identity. It's not the same. It's not grounded in any positive or stable reality. It acquires its meaning from its oppositional position to the norm.
So it's effectively social Trotskyism, a continuous revolution.
It is, correct. That's exactly it. Whatever is at odds with the normal, the legitimate, the dominant. So heterosexuality, it's going to be the opposite to that. It's going to oppose that, right? And take anything you like, the whole notion of family. It's going to be anti-family. And you can extend it. If you extend it and think of the whole things of what's, considered normal sexuality, it's going to be into perversions, BDSM, etc. It's going to be promoting those things, fisting, things. So this is the definition of queer. So when you talk about inclusion, that word, and you want to bring in queer, this is what you're bringing in.
By
It's in
definition, you're putting
opposition.
in something that is utterly oppositional to everything that you believe in, every strand of your society.
Yeah. Essentially by design. It's a political identity. That's
Yeah.
what it is. You don't have to be gay or non-binary to be queer.
We
Most
saw
people who
that
are
with
queer,
that straight lady
yeah,
that represented Ireland in the Eurovision, screaming at press conference, "I'm queer," and she dancing with
yes,
her long-term boyfriend on stage. Yeah,
100%. It's a political identity. It's a communist political identity.
yeah.
And I say communist for good reason, because if you think of
Right.
communist philosophy, which is
Mm,
anti-family, anti-religion,
yes,
anti-nationhood, they believe
yes.
in open borders, right? Anti-free speech, all
They
the
believe in
things that
open
you can
borders
think
until they
of.
try to get out.
Yeah. So if a queer identity is fundamentally rooted in communism. And
Yeah.
and feminist theory is a huge advocate for communism as well, because the feminist theorists believe that women can only truly be equal in a communist society that has no kind of gender separation. Women work in the workplace like everything else. They're not tied to families. There's no concept of marriage where they're committed to a man.
Children are reared in industrial crashes.
Exactly, exactly. So women are liberated in that sort of a society. That's their view, is they're liberated in that sort of society, and that's the only way women can truly have gender equality is in a communist type society. So there's a huge
Yeah.
linkage there. We don't have time to go through it. So this is Gail Rubin. She's a queer theorist. You can see the term. She's talking about boy lovers, child porn panic, uh, the denounce erotic injustice and sexual oppression. She
Erotic
was promoting this thing
injustice.
called she has a paper, this paper that she wrote, Thinking Sex, the Radical Theory of Politics and Sexuality. She mentions the word politics in there.
Yeah.
Don't let that be lost on you. Queer is fundamentally political, and her outer limits are what she's promoting, and they're attempting to promote that in our schools
Yeah.
from a sexuality perspective. And so
So I
look her
think
up, Gail
queer
Rubin.
has no place in our schools at all. That term has, but people mistake it as meaning gay.
They
But it has
do,
no place. Something
yeah.
so
And that's
utterly
deliberate.
different.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. That's deliberate, Paddy. This is the double speak again. That the
it
queer has
is.
two different meanings now. It's
I'm
political
old enough.
meaning.
I am
Yeah,
old enough as a gay man to remember when we took back the word queer because queer was the very worst thing that could be said to you. And
yeah, yeah.
we took it back. We've lost it again. It's gone.
It's
Mm.
gone. Yeah, and it's been used here as part of a deception, I would say, because people are
Yes,
still associated with their gay friends, and they say, I want to support my gay friends,
of
so I'm not
course.
going to say
Yeah,
anything again. I'm not
yeah.
going to say anything against the term
Instead, we get
queer.
Gail Rubin and her mad charmed circle.
Yeah, so this is the issue. So again, most people have no idea of this stuff, would have no knowledge of
Yeah.
queer theory or any kind of where it's come from or anything like that. And here's queer anthropology. This is basically gender ideology here.
And who
That
doesn't
you're
love unicorns?
yes, so you'll tend to see two things. You'll tend to see the genderbread man who's in a lot of the books.
Yeah,
But if you go in a university course, they tend to use the gender unicorn. But you can see that this is a picture that's aimed at young children,
of course.
right? This is to appeal to the very young, and it
Sparkly
talks about
purple unicorn.
yeah, yeah. So this is the notion. It talks about gender identity, gender expression, your sex assigned at birth. Your sex. Remember that term, sex assigned at birth? Who you're attracted to, who you're
Drives
emotionally
me
attracted.
nuts. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So this is it, right? So this has been promoted as a replacement for the anthropology we know today, which is men and women.
Yes.
It's not inclusion. It's
No.
not inclusion. It's replacement.
It's utter replacement. It's replacement by some mad,
Yeah,
destructive idea. Eugene, we're going to have to bring this to a close. We've been doing
yeah.
this for nearly an hour. So I want to get into the sort of the meaty bit of what's right now changing in Irish schools this September. What are children going to be exposed to?
Well, what's coming in September, and one thing I want to cover at the end is maybe what people can do about it.
We will get
Is
there.
they're bringing this stuff into the underage, the Ashter curriculum, and the primary curriculum. All the nonsense that the social justice, gender theory, all that stuff is coming into those, lower curriculum. That's the problem. So I'm just going to, and people
And we're
need to,
talking about children of 5. 4 and 5
We
being
are talking about children of 5. Yeah, correct. They're going to get exposed to all the full suite of social justice stuff. So the first thing I ask people to do is inform yourself. You really have to learn about this stuff. We've got a wealth of videos on the Natural Women's Council YouTube channel that covering
do,
pretty well
and
everything
they're
I've talked
really
about on
good.
this video so far. So need to check that out and go through them. And the other thing is, it's not just the videos. In the video descriptions, we put the links to the source documents. So
Yes.
you can really get to the thing. Grandparents can play a huge role here because they have more time. Parents can be very busy. They're bringing their kids to everything,
Yeah.
soccer and all this stuff, and they're on the go.
Between
So
work and the
grandparents,
mommy and daddy's taxi. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So grandparents can really play a strong role here, and they can do a lot of the hard lifting on the research side, and then bring it to their children, who are parents. Opt-outs. Right now, opt-outs are going to be very hard because this whole school approach puts it into every subject. So
So
you have to
we
be
want
very
an end.
specific.
We want an end to the whole school approach.
Well, we do. It's outrageous. It's subverting parental rights. Once you've educated yourself enough and you've got the confidence to start sharing those concerns with friends, family, and colleagues, that like you need to start doing that, engaging them, saying you can do it in a very mild way. You can say, geez, I've been looking at some of that stuff, and I've looked at one of the kids' books. Have you looked at it yourself? I'm kind of concerned about some of the stuff that's in there, and just broach the topic, get the discussion going, right?
Yeah.
That's the way to do it. You need to speak to, write, and email all your local politicians to say you do not consent to this ideological content coming into the classroom, and it needs to be removed immediately. You need
Yeah.
to do that. Like everybody has to do that and contact every single one of them. They need to get it. Now, this is a key point. When you're engaging with somebody, you can say, I'm not trying to make you agree with what I'm showing you here, but what I'm asking you to do is to question what you're being told. Question what you're
That's
being told by the.
absolutely superb.
Yeah.
I'm not asking you to agree with me. I'm asking you to question what you are being told.
Yeah.
That,
And that's a very mild way, right?
yeah.
What you're being told by RTE, what you're being told by the Department of Education and the NCCA, and there's a group called the National Parents Council,
The
and
National
they're
Defense.
basically an NGO for the government.
Yeah. I'm quite certain it does not represent parents
No, no, it
in
doesn't.
our
They're a
topsy-turvy
mouthpiece.
world.
They're a mouthpiece for the NCCA and the department. So people need to just, before you agree with I'm not asking you to take on board what I'm saying, but
Yeah.
do start questioning, start investigating yourself and satisfying. Look at your school books, get your children's school books home and look at them yourself.
Yeah.
And that's the starting point. Now, if somebody's either incapable or willing to do this, they're either an ideologue themselves and they're bought into it all and they're pushing the agenda, or they
Yeah.
have been indoctrinated by mainstream media, by our politicians,
Need to be
and
brought.
they need to be brought to the realization that that's what's happened to them. So these are things people need to do. Now, I'm going to give you one last little quote here from Pope Pius XI, and he talks about communism. I specifically reserve to communism because communism hides itself. And you can see it here. He's talking this pseudo ideology of justice and equality and fraternity, right? The nice terms, empathy, inclusion, da di da di da. The delusive promises, right? That's what we're dealing with. Fundamentally, that's what we're dealing with right now. It's a modern day 21st century manifestation of communism. You could call it neo-communism, you can call it something else. It is totalitarian. Why is it being funded by very wealthy people? Well, the very wealthy people are the stakeholders, as we were calling it. They're not going to be subjected to communist rule. They'll be still living the life they're living today. It's you and I. It's every normal person's going to be the person subjected to the totalitarian rule. It's going to be a two-tier society.
Fundamentally, this is all of what you've been talking about is
Yeah.
entirely subversive of education. It is destroying children's education in
Yeah.
our schools.
Well, you see, a fundamental of communism is you must indoctrinate the next generations.
Yeah.
You have to do it to be successful. And that's what they're trying to do right now.
That's what they're trying to do right now.
And gender
Eugene
ideology
Garvin,
is the tip of the spear.
yeah, Eugene Garvin, thank you so much for that extraordinary, I don't know what I'd call it, but that extraordinary exposition, I suppose. You've been wonderful. There's one clear message to take from this. If you're a parent and you don't guard your children, nobody else is going to do it for you. Thank you very much for tuning in.
Thanks, Paddy.